Hello everybody, I'm Azortharion and welcome to a 11.0.5 anniversary update video for Hunters. So I should note that I've made a previous video about patch 11.0.5 that covers the majority of the changes specifically happening to BM and the Dark Ranger hero talent rework. They've made a lot more changes to that stuff that will be in this video, but I will sometimes allude to things that I discussed in more depth in the previous video. However, I will try to jog your memory on what I'm sort of talking about when I mention like the names on new talents and so on. And hopefully you can watch just this video and get fully up to date. But otherwise, I would really appreciate, and you would also benefit from, watching the video that I link in the description below. All right, let's just hop straight into it. There's a bit of everything here. Updates to Dark Ranger, updates to BM in general, updates to the MM set bonus and some small MM changes in general, small updates to survival, and yeah, so let's just hop straight into it. So from the very beginning, extra black arrows fired from Withering Fire will now apply the periodic effect. So what does that mean? Well, let's just hop straight into the hero talent tree, or just the hero the talent tree for BM in general here. Keep it up. So every forecaster Beast of Wrath, you surrender to darkness for 12 seconds. This is the redesigned Withering Fire. If you would gain Death Blow while under the effects of Withering Fire, you instead instantly fire Black Arrow at your target and 2 additional Black Arrows at nearby targets at 50% effectiveness. What I was sort of amusing about in my previous video is, because it was a bit unclear from the tooltip in my opinion, will this mean that you get AOE Black Arrows? Well, this wording update essentially means yes, we will get AOE multi-targeted Black Arrows going on, which is quite exciting and cool. Bleak Powder damage increased by 100%. So Bleak Powder is casting Black Arrow while Beast Cleave or Trick Shots is active, causes Black Arrow to explode upon hitting a target, dealing moderate damage to nearby enemies. So just adding a bit of extra AoE damage to the Dark Ranger tree. And they've done the exact same thing for, for Shadow Surge, which is a similar sort of effect. It's basically just periodic damage from Black Arrow, so whenever it ticks, it has a small chance to erupt in a burst of darkness, dealing some moderate shadow damage, and this is the damage that they buffed. So basically these two changes all just mean more AoE damage, like passive AoE damage for Dark Ranger, which is of course a good thing. As compensation, if you will, they've reduced the overall damage of Black Arrow by 10% because we'll have more of them, and they've also buffed some of the sort of downstream effects of having Black Arrow active. I think this is just sort of a numbers tuning thing, nothing to be alarmed about in my opinion. I think like overall these are definitely net positive changes for Dark Ranger, both numerically and gameplay wise. So pretty happy with the Dark Ranger changes overall. They basically just confirmed something we already suspected would be the case. They buffed some numbers, they nerfed some others, still probably a net positive. And they also put Black Arrow's periodic effect, the dot, is now tracked on enemy nameplates in the default UI, which is a good thing. Next up is the big Beast Mastery changes. So anyone who's played Beast Mastery lately will have noticed that BM's AoE damage is really bad. And a big part of that has been this talent called Basilisk Collar, which is right over here. Basically, each damage over time effect on a target, of which we have quite a few. There's Serpent Sting, there's Black Arrow, there's a Murder of Crows, there's all this stuff going on. And each damage over time effect on a target increases the damage they receive from your pet's attacks by 5%, and it's a 2-pointer talent, so currently it's 10%. Which means if you have 5 dots active from various parts of your kit, like we grab Black Arrow from over there from Dark Ranger, we have Serpent Sting from our kill shots via Venom's Bite, we have a Murder of Crows, we have of course our regular Barb Shot, we have all these random things going on, leading into like 50% increased pet damage, which is like most of our damage just from these 2 points of a talent. And this is great when we can actually generate the dots. The problem, of course, is that BM is not really a dot spec. Like, it has some dots sort of strewn throughout its kit, but we don't put up our dots like that for the most part. And more importantly, we do not multi-dot. So in AoE scenarios, this super broken talent for single target becomes much, much weaker. But the problem is, how do you tune around this? If you just buff BM's numbers in general, this talent will make the single target numbers go out of control, while the AoE numbers will always be so far behind because you're just default lacking 20-30% pet damage on all targets that aren't your main target. So what they've done is they've nerfed the crap out of it, which is a really good thing. Nerfs are rarely good, but this is a really good thing because they've compensated for it by simply putting more power into kill command, which is of course our exciting button, the one we actually like to press. This will make it much easier for Blizzard to appropriately tune our AOE damage relative to our single target damage, and I believe it is the first step towards us getting much better relative tuning of single target and AOE, and will hopefully lead towards BM not being quite so terrible at AOE. I should say I don't have hard numbers on any of this, like there are no simulations coming out for this stuff yet. Those will come much, much closer to the release of the patch. But in terms of like design direction, this is overall a very positive thing. So kudos to Blizzard for this one. Could have happened sooner though. Alright, next up is multi-shot damage increased by 300%. 300%, you're probably thinking. Not a typo. Not a typo from them either. I didn't misspeak. It's 300%. But it's not actually all that much. Multi-shot damage for BM is extremely low. 300% of a very low number is, well, it's just not a very high number. It's a sign of intent. Like it clearly shows that they want to increase BM's AOE damage. This line alone is probably not doing much to change that. BM multi-shot damage is one of those things, like it's basically a rounding error. Like even though you'll press it so many times on an AOE fight, it'll be like way less than 1% of your overall damage probably. This will now be improved a bit, but and it will make multi-shot feel a bit less terrible to press, but overall a pretty subtle change, even though there's such a huge percentage number attached to it. So yeah. Alright, Serpentine Rhythm damage bonus per stack increased to 25%, was 15%, and maximum stacks of Serpentine Rhythm decreased to 4. And they reduced the duration of it, and they increased the pet damage bonus from it. And you're probably like, wait, what the frick is Serpentine Rhythm? Don't worry, I talked about it in the last video, but I will jog your memory. Serpentine Rhythm is a new talent coming in patch 11.0.5. Casting Cobra Shot increases its damage by 15%, now 25%, stacking up to 6 times, now 4 times. So they've buffed the effect of each stack, but they've nerfed the total amount of stacks. Okay. Upon reaching 6 stacks, now 4 stacks, the bonus is removed and you gain 6%, now 8%, increased pet damage for 10 seconds, now 8 seconds. So, okay, what does this mean? Essentially it means we're packing more power into Cobra Shot. Cobra Shot is now going to feel better to press. The more we press Cobra Shot, the more quickly we'll cycle this buff. Every 4 Cobra Shots we cast, essentially, we'll gain 8% increased pet damage for 8 seconds. So it's just a way of making Cobra Shot a less lame button to press, both numerically and in terms of like, sort of, as BM right now, you're basically only feeling happy when you're pressing kill command. And pressing absolutely anything else is like, oh, can I just get back to kill commanding already? And especially Cobra Shots are very much like a lull in your rotation. So this is going a long way towards fixing that. And overall, I kind of like this talent. And, I think reducing the stack count required to sort of cycle it is a good thing. Training Expert is now a 1-point talent. What's Training Expert? Training Expert is this much maligned talent that has been sitting in a tree for a long time now. All pet damage dealt increased by 2.5%. They've changed this 2-pointer, so it's 2.5% times 2, goes up to 5%. We always use it on single target, not so much in AOE. They've reduced it to a 1-pointer, and the 1-pointer now offers the same benefit as the old 2-pointer. So essentially, we've gained 1 talent point in our single target build, and potentially our AOE build, which currently doesn't run this talent, might actually collect it now because, of course, they've doubled the value per talent point invested. So yeah, overall a good thing. Extra talent points are nice. Making 2-pointers, 1-pointers, always a good thing. No complaints there. Alright, next up is extra black arrows, fight from Hunter's Prey. This is the same change as the above. So obviously Hunter's Prey for BM is the kill shot, which becomes Black Arrow with the new Dark Ranger. Once again, I go over this in detail in the previous video. So your Black Arrow will cleave, and this is basically just confirming that this cleaving kill shot, aka Black Arrow with Dark Ranger, will apply its periodic effect. These are mostly wording changes / clarifications, but just worth getting out of the way. Next up, Phantom Pain's damage sharing effect increased to 8% of Kill Command's damage. So Phantom Pain is, let me just remind myself where it is, yeah. So when Kill Command damages a target affected by Black Arrow, which is going to be almost constantly, 5% of the damage dealt, now 8% of the damage dealt, is replicated to each other unit affected by Black Arrow. So it basically just means that targets affected by Black Arrow, you Kill Command them, and you will splash Kill Commands for 8% of the normal damage. It's a tiny bit of splash damage to kill command. They've buffed it from 5% of the original damage to 8%. Obviously, still not a lot, but it's nice to see because it's a buff, and who doesn't like those? That's pretty much it for BM. Really exciting overall. I think they're moving in the right direction. It, paired with the Dark Ranger changes, suggests that, BM AOE, I mean, I don't know if BM is saved, but BM AOE is certainly going to be much easier to tune, and I think it's much more likely that it will be competitive in AOE, Mythic Plus scenarios, that sort of thing. Alright, next, moving on to Marksmanship. Not as many changes here, but still some stuff that we actually like. Narrow bar panel's 4 set bonus updated, so a tier set update. Consuming precise shots increases the damage of your next aim shot by 20%, was 10%. Basically, they've doubled the value of the set bonus, and this is really good. I said this way back when the tier sets dropped months ago. This tier set is too weakly tuned for us to actually play around. And many months later, they finally listened and they buffed it so that it might be worth playing around. They did, however, clarify that it no longer stacks. However, so you might think, well, now it's just neutral. However, there is currently a bug on live servers, and this has been there a long time, that if you cast aim shot and then you queue an arcane shot, which you'll do really often, that's often a way you play Marksmanship, is aim shot into arcane shot. It will actually munch, like it will give you the buff from the tier set, and then instantly consume it without conferring its benefit. So basically, let's assume that bug didn't exist. Then this would basically be kind of a neutral change, close to neutral at least. It would be significantly better in some scenarios where you might not actually want to cast 2 arcanes between aim shots. I mean, right now, the optimal single target rotation for MM is actually just to cast aim shots on cooldown. But given the reality of this bug, which they'll hopefully fix and stuff, this will actually improve like the practical, the real world benefit of our set bonus quite significantly. Especially on single target, it's a very underwhelming set bonus. It's not actually that bad on AOE, largely because multi-shot actually does quite respectable damage on AOE, which I'm sure you'll have noticed if you've played some MM and checked your damage breakdowns. So yeah, overall a positive change. Razor Fragments is now a rolling periodic. What the frick is a rolling periodic? Well, let's just remind ourselves real quick of what a Razor Fragments is. So Razor Fragments is basically just when the trick shot's effect fades or is consumed, or after gaining Death Blow, your next kill shot will deal much increased damage, and will shred up to 5 targets near a kill shot target for 25% of the damage dealt by kill shot over 6 seconds. So what does it mean that this is now a rolling periodic? Very simple. All it means is that if you cast multiple Razor Fragments buffed kill shots back to back, you will not overwrite this 6-second dot that is applied by the kill shot called Razor Fragments. What will happen instead is that if the dot is already up, it will add the damage of the new dot onto the old one, thereby rolling the dots together so that you don't lose any benefit. It's a small numbers buff to Marksmanship effectively, and it's just sort of a streamlining of how everything ties together mechanically. So yeah, subtle, but overall a good change. Next up is Master Marksman now benefits from unnatural causes. What's unnatural causes? It's this tree, this talent hiding near the bottom of our class tree, which is your damage over time effects deal 10% increased damage. This effect is increased by 50% on targets below 20% health. Master Marksman, of course, is part of the many things that makes crit such an awesome stat for MM, which is your melee and range special attack crits cause the target to bleed for an additional... So basically, your crits will bleed for an extra 15% damage. Now, this will be buffed by 10%. So essentially, they've buffed Master Marksman by 10%, pretty substantial. Maybe like 1% or so. It kind of depends on, on the scenario, how much crit you have. But anywhere from 0.75% to 1.5%, that might be a bit on the high end, but you get what I mean. It should always have been affected by unnatural causes, but now they fixed it so that it is, and this is overall a good thing. And of course, unnatural causes also leans a little bit into our execute niche. or niche, or niche, or Nietzsche, I don't know. Let me know in the comments how you actually pronounce that word, because I've been mocked for all the ways in which I pronounce it. All right. So yeah, leads more into that execute vibe that we got going on. Overall, a good thing, but pretty subtle at the end of the day. All right. Finally, we got a few survival changes. This is very minor stuff. Nothing that really fundamentally changes anything, but let's go over it anyway. Fury of the Eagle now consumes a stack of Tip of the Spear when the channel begins. So this change is, it used to consume it at the end, and the damage bonus will persist for the duration of the channel. Now, this is more of a visual clarity thing, because right now, if you've been playing survival and like you got a Tip of the Spear stack, you hit your Fury of the Eagle and you're like, wait, it's not consuming my Tip of the Spear stack. Is it working? And the answer is yes, it's working, but it doesn't consume it on your UI until the end of the channel. They've made that so that it's very obvious. It's basically just a visual change on your UI. It'll make it more sort of intuitive to play with Fury of the Eagle and Tip of the Spear. That's all it is. No actual real change here. Next up is Merciless Blows periodic damage now benefits from damage modifiers and can critically strike. So let's just remind ourselves of what the new Merciless Blows is. So let's head to the new survival tree. And let's find it. So casting Butchery causes affected targets to bleed for 480% of attack power over 8 seconds. So basically you Butchery, you apply a mess. Every single target hit will take the same amount of pretty heavy physical damage. Or rather bleed damage, technically, which pierces armor. That's actually a relevant distinction. So bleed damage over 8 seconds. Well, this can now crit, so that's obviously a huge buff to it, you know, depending on how much crit you have. And what was the other change to it? It benefits from damage modifiers, so that will just be like things like Lunar Storm, that kind of damage modifier, which is just 10% of your stuff. It benefits from all that. You know, I talked about this at length in my previous video, but this is a really exciting talent in general because it is one of Hunter's only, it's a new way for Hunter of doing completely uncapped AOE damage. Like, so Butchery itself deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets, but it will attack, and as it says, all nearby enemies. And once you do that, every target hit, it doesn't matter if it's 100 targets around you, they will all bleed for 480% of AP damage over 8 seconds, and it stacks with damage modifiers now, and it can crit these ticks. I mean, I don't know if pulls are gonna get big enough to warrant this, but like, let's say like MDI and survival AOE tuning is pretty good. I mean, if the pulls are big enough, Merciless Blow will just kind of like spiral out of control because, you know, there are some other AOE mechanics throughout the game that are fully uncapped in this way, but there are not a lot. And this is one of the stronger ones, I'm pretty sure of that. So, I don't know, watch this space, I guess, but overall, it's pretty exciting. And that basically covers it for this video, everyone. So let me know what you think of these changes in the comments below. If you think I missed anything, have any corrections, suggestions, if you just want to tell me how terrible or how not terrible I am, please let me know in the comments below. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that lovely stuff. Make sure to visit my Discord where you can always ask me questions and sort of interact with me directly, but I also try to read all of the YouTube comments. Thank you so much for your support, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.